You know, my dear nerds, there's very few things on this planet which I would describe as borderline perfect. Things like drinking your morning coffee on the back porch of a mountain cabin, that's borderline perfect. Seeing an entitled kid accidentally dropping his ice cream and crying and sobbing and you laughing and pointing at him, that's borderline perfect. Actually, don't do that. Having the most beautiful community of like-minded nerds, for some reason watching your videos, that's borderline perfect as well. But all of these, they cut close to perfection. They don't reach perfection. And I guess this is the theme of the video. Almost reaching actually, perfection, but never quite getting there. You see, I've been very passionate of telescopic controllers basically ever since I got into retro gaming again, because telescopic controllers are empowering. I'm just gonna say it as it is. It allows you to basically give a whole other purpose to an Android phone or tablet. And telescopic controllers, for that reason alone, for me, they are more awesome than even dedicated handhelds. Which leads me to that mother flipper right there. This controller is what I would call borderline perfect, but really not yet there. This is, my dear nerds, almost divinity, but not quite. This is the Abxylute S9, the new controller from Abxylute, and I'm here to say that this, in many ways, is one of a kind in the market. You won't find any controller like this, which has all the bells and whistles which you never see on other controllers. No matter what feature you're thinking of right now, this mother flipper probably has it. And I'm gonna jump right in the meat of it. The highlight of this, for me at least, is the fact that it has a USB-C, but also Bluetooth, but it can enlarge to the extent where it can take 8-inch tablets, like my beloved Y700 2023 and iPad minis. But real quick, my dear nerds, before I go on, I just want to say that this particular controller was sent to me by Abxylute themselves. I hope I'm finally pronouncing this company name properly.
Abxylute.
And this is an early engineering sample, meaning that the final version might differ a bit from what you're seeing here, but this is more or less what you're gonna get if you do decide to buy it. But if you want to get one for yourself after you watch this video, I'm gonna leave a link to their Kickstarter campaign in the description, because this is now in the Kickstarter stage, but if you back them up on Kickstarter, you will basically reserve your place to get one of the first production units available. But this is very important for you to know, my dear nerd. This is an independent review. Nobody has seen this beforehand, nobody had any input. Abxylute sees this review at the same time as you, and unfortunately for me, nobody pays me for this stuff. So, you know, freedom of opinion and voice and all of that good stuff. But going back to it, the reason why I'm so flipping excited about this controller in particular, wait a second, there we go, is because this has the best feeling D-pad, and I'm not referring to the plastic, which I ever felt on a controller, meaning that it's accurate beyond belief. If I want to hit diagonals, I hit diagonals. If I want to do anything else, in my opinion, from my testing, the D-pad does everything that I want with almost 100% accuracy. It's borderline bananas to say this, because I've had so many controllers in my hands, and I mean a lot of them. Look at this B-roll. By the way, tell me if you want reviews from any of these controllers in this shot. But none of them have a D-pad that feels as good as this one. Touching this D-pad feels like I'm touching the feet of God, if God's feet were a D-pad. That was so bad. That was so flipping horrible. Anyway, what I'm saying is that this D-pad shocked the living poop out of me. The sticks are also very good. They might need a bit of calibration depending on how sensitive you are. Abxylute does have an app which will be public when this controller basically hits the masses. And with that app, you get some extra customization as well. But before I go on, let's check out this quick unboxing brought to you by Narrator Vlad and Editing Vlad, which they both hate me right now because I'm basically outsourcing jobs to me in the future. But I don't care about those mother flippers. I don't have to work now. Not my problem. So my dear nerds, let's unbox this thing and see what we actually have. Bear in mind your packaging might be different than what you see here, because I got the quote-unquote special reviewer package for the first time in my life since I had this channel at least. And I find this packaging way too fancy and way too cute. Anyway, let's open this mother flipper up and look at how beautiful it looks. This looks flipping amazing. This is hands down the best packed handheld that I ever saw in my life. And let me just get it out of here. This feels, well, quite different. I'll get into that later, but let's see what we have first. We have a D-pad and 2 thumbsticks, and last but not least we have the second D-pad, because bear in mind the D-pads and the thumbsticks on this controller, just a second, I need to take it out, they are exchangeable, so we can flip from one to another. And I also got this cute little note from Abxylute.
Abxylute.
You can pause it and read it in your own time. I thought it was very cute. I don't think that's real handwriting though, I'm pretty sure this is just only written once and then Xeroxed, but it's the thought that counts. Let me just put this back real quick, I approve of this. And back in the black envelope it goes. So, let's put this aside and focus on the main thing here. My dear nerds, all I have to say is that this controller really made a splash on first impressions. It has pass-through charging, as you would expect with anything with USB-C. You might be asking yourself, Vlad, what's with that weird D-pad? Well, that weird D-pad is just the D-pad that I like, because you can very easily, and I'll try to do this here, you can very easily take it off and replace it, because in the box you have 2 other D-pads to choose from. And you can also take the faceplate off and you can gaze upon it in its full glory. You can also take the sticks off for some reason. And that's because besides the 2 extra D-pads, you also get 2 extra thumbsticks to replace your thumbsticks if you're that kind of person. And we also have customizable buttons on the left and right side. You can customize those through the app. We have Hall effect triggers, and the triggers feel pretty so-so. They could have felt better, but they are doable. One thing I'm not really excited though about this controller is what the heck is going on with that purple blue shade over there. We have that retractable USB-C, which is very good for your phones or tablets USB port. Never buy a controller with a stiff USB-C, by the way, my dear nerds. And the rubber padding on the side actually surprised me, because they look very similar to what Gameser has in their G8 and G8 Plus models. This controller has a headphone jack, and it has a macro button, a home button, another button which I forgot, I'll put on the screen what it does. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get to the highlight of this thing, which is the overall stretchiness. Look, you might be wondering of 2 main things. One, how big does it stretch? Do you need to mod it? Do you need to do like with a Gameser G8 and do a stretchy mod? Well, I don't think that you should ever do a stretchy mod, because this is just perfect for the use case that it wants to cover. And the star of the show, my dear nerds, look at how beautifully it wrapped around my Y700 2023 tablet. Bear in mind, this is roughly the same size as an iPad mini, so this controller is the first one that I know of that can use a 8-inch tablet via USB-C. No other controller, as far as I know, is able to do this. This is one of my favorite combos to do any sort of play, retro or otherwise, on Android. And let's quickly see how Legacy of Kain Defiance looks on this. It looks absolutely amazing. You see, if you use a telescopic controller on something more than 8.8 inches, then you wouldn't even feel like you're playing on a handheld anymore. I think that the biggest, give me a second here, the biggest screen that you can have while also maintaining your comfort zone is 8.8 inches. More than that, it just looks and feels awkward. When you have a 10-inch tablet and a telescopic controller going around it, well, it just looks goofy, and more importantly, it's heavy enough that you don't get to enjoy it after, let's say, 20 minutes. Whereas with this, it's kind of smooth sailing, my dear nerds. You know, this is the part where I said that this controller is almost perfect, because if you look at it, at first glance, it looks like a GameSir G8 on steroids. This looks like how people wanted the GameSir G8 Pro USB-C version to look like, and it looks like that. To be honest, it feels like they are related. In fact, wait a second. Tell me that they don't look like they have at least some DNA in common. They look flipping related, or at least they look like they belong from the same manufacturer. But herein lies the problem, my dear nerds. You see, Abxylute wants to price this very, very competitively. Way more competitively than what GameSir did with the GameSir G8 Plus and G8 Galileo. Because of this, they had to cut some corners. And those corners, depending on who you might ask, are actually good, or they might be a deal breaker. The first one is that it feels a bit hollow and plasticky, and I don't really understand why, because it shouldn't feel hollow and plasticky. Maybe it feels like this because this is a pre-production unit. Remember, this is very important to remember, this is not a retail model. This is still in active development. They still have time, I assume, to make small changes to it. It feels like a controller that overextended its capacity and tried to be too many things at once, if that makes sense. And in many ways, that's exactly what's happening here. It tries to have interchangeable thumbsticks, an interchangeable D-pad, swappable faceplates. It tries to have USB-C and Bluetooth. It tries to be long enough that you can put any tablet on it. All my devices interact beautifully with this, except for one small / immense detail, and this would have been a deal breaker for me if I hadn't received confirmation from Abxylute themselves that they will be working on this. The controller currently does not go into standby, meaning that if you hook it up to something like, for example, if I hook it up to my phone right now, if only I could find the hole. Yes. How easily the USB-C port just goes in after you find a hole. But once you have it in, it turns on, and you can tell that it's on by these two flipping LEDs. And while they are not subtle, you do know that it's on. My main gripe with this is that it's always on. But again, my dear nerds, remember, very early sample, Abxylute said that they will fix this. But currently, if I were to play something on it, like let's say Legacy of Kain Defiance, you need to play that game. I mention it in every video until all of you mother flippers play that game. And then let's say that adult life, interferes and I have to do some other things for a few hours and I forget my phone and this controller. Well, this will currently suck the battery out of this phone because it doesn't have that auto standby feature where most other controllers, including this one, would simply be like, you know what? I'm not used right now, I should shut up and shut off. I know from what they told me that they will implement this via a firmware update. And Abxylute, I'm looking forward to that. That's the main Most important feature for a lot of nerds, me included, please do not rush this thing before you do this firmware update. This is very important for a lot of people. But yeah, my dear nerds, this in a nutshell is the Abxylute S9. It's a wonderful controller for what it is, and it will only get better. Again, this isn't even released yet, and it impressed the freaking pants off of me. It's so flipping nice in many ways. And just as a quick thing, I absolutely love that the back is not so tall that it protrudes on top or at the bottom of the phone. When you have it in front of you, you just see pure screen, and that's it. Screen in all its glory and two freaking handles at the side. And I think this is peak design. I personally freaking love it. I'm not sure it's my most favorite controller. It kinda fights toe-to-toe with the Gameser G8 Plus for my attention. Both of these will be used with my Y700 2023 tablet. That's where it is. That's where their use case lies for me. And you know what, my dear nerd, I keep mentioning the Y700 2023, but I should hook it up to this thing so that we get a better look at it. Just need to align the hole here. Why am I so bad at this? Jesus Christ, how am I alive at my age? Perfect. Look at this, my dear nerds. Tell me this isn't flipping beautiful. This looks amazing, and not just because I have the Legacy of Kain games there and Underground 1, for those who know, they know, but this is peak handheld right here. With this combo, you can literally play anything that you can on Android. And for me personally, it's just very comforting to know that manufacturers think of this use case, because they know that this use case is the best way in which we can use these flipping devices. This right here beats, in my opinion, most Android handhelds that are dedicated and we currently have on the market. I always talk when I review any kind of devices that at one point we might reach a device that's good enough, which makes us not want to upgrade or to, constantly buy new iterations. I think a lot of people would be very happy with this as long as Abxylute implements that auto standby, auto sleep feature. So yeah, needless to say, I'm a fan. Will it be better than this? I guess time will tell. Can't speak of durability yet because I've only had it for a short while, but it doesn't really feel like it's about to break. I have a feeling though that the final version of this controller will be a bit more stiff, because I feel like this isn't stiff enough. I love the fact that the USB-C is not stiff, but I just wish for a bit more stiffness, I guess, in the telescopic part of the controller. But anyway, my dear nerds, I've been rambling for quite a long time. Let me know what you feel about this. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do consider subscribing. That helps me a whole lot and I really appreciate it. And if you want to support me more directly, consider becoming either my Patreon or a YouTube channel member. Doesn't matter which one you choose, you will end up on my wall of fame anyway, along with all of these awesome people. So, my dear nerd, this is all from me. I missed you. I know I've been away for quite a long time, but stay tuned because I'm actually planning to do a very fast release schedule for videos moving forward. And until next time, my dear nerd, just remember, I still love you very much. Even though sometimes I might disappear like a ghost, but I will always come back. I'm the kind of person like a tapeworm, I always come back. Bye, my dear nerd.